Hey, folks, thanks for joining us today. We're going to give people a couple more minutes to join and then we will get started. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kim, and I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at HYCU, covering our Protege suite of data protection offerings. Joining me on today's session is Shiva Raja, who is a Senior Technical Solution Architect for HYCU. Some quick housekeeping before we begin. Your lines have been muted during the presentation, but we definitely want to answer any questions that come up for you. So if you want to ask a question, please do so through the questions panel. And with that, let's go ahead and dive in. For our agenda today, so I'll start off telling you a little bit about HYCU and what we do, including a quick overview of our data protection offering for AWS. And then I will hand it over to Shiva, who will take you through the demo so you can see HYCU in action. All right, a little bit about HYCU. We are a global company headquartered in Boston, and we have over 300 employees across the globe. We may be small, but we are mighty. Our team has deep data protection expertise, including our product management and engineering teams who have tons of experience developing data protection products for blue chip companies before joining HYCU. HYCU is a hybrid cloud enabler. This is important because infrastructure strategies are increasingly hybrid and organizations now have data all over the place. When I say we're a hybrid enabler, for HYCU, it isn't just about supporting all of those infrastructure platforms. It's also about making sure that customers are able to have the same great experience, regardless of where their data is stored. So that's why we've been very deliberate about ensuring that our products are purpose-built for each platform we support. This is really different than how others have approached the problem and is a foundational principle for us that you'll see come up later on in the talk as well. And lastly, we do have a global customer base of over 3,000, and we're currently sold in 75 countries globally. We support customers in all major verticals and are trusted by some of the leading global organizations and government agencies to protect their most sensitive data. Enough about us. Why are we all here? So in short, because it's gotten more and more difficult for businesses to avoid the negative consequences that result from data loss. So a recent study showed that about 76% of organizations that were surveyed experienced downtime in 2021 that was a direct result of data loss. And this wasn't just cyber attacks either. The leading cause actually in this study was system crashes followed by human error. So the fact that this is such a widespread challenge really underscores the importance of ensuring that you have a reliable backup of your data when you need it. And when it comes down to it, HYCU exists to help our customers avoid those worst case scenarios and make sure that they're able to access data when they need it. And we do that with HYCU Protege. So HYCU Protege is a SaaS platform. It unifies all of HYCU's purpose-built data protection offerings under a single pane of glass. So we started by building deep integrations that you can think of as essentially functionally specialized applications that are built to provide backup and recovery for a single platform. So you'll see those boxes along the top. Take the orange AWS box on the top right, for example. Protege then brings all of these applications together within a single UI. So when customers choose to use more than one of these applications within Protege, they're then able to take advantage of cross-platform capabilities. So things like disaster recovery, migration, data mobility. Diving in and looking specifically at our AWS offering, you'll see that we're guided by many of the same principles that we've discussed in the last few minutes. So first and foremost, it was purpose-built on AWS for AWS. So we utilize native snapshots, AWS Identity Access Management, resource tagging, S3 storage tiers, and obviously wanted to take advantage of the elasticity of AWS. But in addition to it being built for AWS from a technical perspective, using that native terminology and those native services also make it more intuitive to use for folks that are used to building in AWS. We are also 100% SaaS, and I say that in the pure meaning of the term. So we didn't just lift and shift legacy software to a cloud instance and call it SaaS. We actually built a scalable cloud-native multi-tenant SaaS offering. So what this means for our customers is that there's no big planning process, no extensive sizing exercises, no lengthy install and config, maintenance, upgrades. Really what you get with our data protection offering for AWS is a true SaaS solution. It's also very easy to use. So it was designed with one-click simplicity in mind. We've talked to hundreds of customers, and talking to these folks, we came to understand that data protection isn't something that people want to spend a lot of time thinking about. It's like an insurance policy, more or less. It has to be there when you need it, and it has to work, but people don't want to spend a bunch of time on it. It needs to be easy and intuitive. And so we've designed our solution so that if you have the right AWS credentials, you can be up and running in minutes, and you can execute various use cases, each with just a click. At HYCU, it's also important to us that you maintain full control of your data. So we don't impose any data storage requirements on you in order to protect your data. We are storage agnostic, so bring your own storage. You maintain 100% control, data privacy and sovereignty. You own your data. We don't store anything. We just protect it. So this means that you don't need to manage compliance and regulations with vendors who do need to store your data and able to protect it, which is a really big deal for some organizations. Lastly, we're agentless, application centric, and impact free. So, I mentioned AWS snapshots earlier. We utilize snapshots and impact-free backups so that you get full protection, but you don't have that weight and performance lag of on-prem tools. And then our app-centric approach means that we look at each application and we take each application into account when we back up your data. And this is important because it ensures that your mission critical apps can be restored without any errors or data inconsistencies. So application consistent backup. All right, quick overview of our offering. And now I will hand it over to Shiva to run you all through a demo.
Thank you. All right, so let me just share my screen. And just wanted to do a quick screen check. Kim, are you able to see my screen?
Looks good.
Perfect. All right, so a quick introduction about myself. My name is Shiva Raja. I'm the technical solutions architect. Been with the company for almost 4 years now, and my passion is fully on a data center solution, data center monitoring solutions and data protection. So really happy to be here. So I just wanted to showcase a very short and and a quick overview of what HYCU can deliver for AWS platform. So as Kim pointed out, one of the hallmarks of our solution is we are fully hosted on AWS. We fully deliver our solution purely as a service, meaning that if customers wanted to protect their AWS EC2 instances, all they would have to do is basically go to the AWS marketplace, as you can see here, and search for HYCU. And the moment they do that, they will be able to discover the HYCU's overview, all the details that are required in the AWS marketplace. Gives you details about what we offer in terms of data protection, migration, and DR capabilities, and also gives you a detailed overview about our pricing, usage, and even support details. So from here, all the customer has to do is basically subscribe to our solution, and that's pretty much about it. Because once you have subscribed to our solution, we will be able to automatically provision the entire backup infrastructure automatically, and we will be able to utilize your credentials that has access to your subscription or to your AWS billing account, and using those credentials, we will be able to derive a security token, and we will be able to basically discover all of your resource groups and all of your AWS EC2 instances associated with those resource groups. So just think about that, right? As a customer, if I mean, in a typical on-prem or even on AWS environment, if you had to deploy a data protection solution, just think about the number of steps that you would have to go through, right? I mean, you would first need to understand how many EC2 instances do you have, how many regions or how many resource groups, do you basically host across your entire AWS subscription, and based on that, understand how your backup requirements are going to look like. Based on that, you basically decide how the installation needs to happen, plan that installation based on discovery, configuration, sizing. So you're literally thinking about deploying and configuring and sizing a backup solution manually on the AWS. And if you're going through those steps, I mean, that's not the right way to do about things, right? Because you're already on cloud, and cloud is basically meant to make things easier, at least with regards to manageability and performance standpoint, right? So that is exactly where HYCU comes into the picture, because we purely deliver our solution as a service, meaning that you as an end user won't be able to or won't be required to install or deploy your solution manually. Everything is automatically deployed. And in addition to that, you don't have to size your solution, right? Because we have our own cloud scale dynamic architecture, or sorry, dynamic cloud scale architecture, which provides you the ability to, or which provides HYCU the ability to automatically expand or shrink based on your EC2 environment, right? Based on the number of EC2 instances that you have within your AWS subscription. So everything is fully automated. Now, this is a quick overview of how your user interface looks like, right? So the moment, you know what, let me just do this. Let me just try to sign out. Uh, so once you're basically done with your subscription, and once you've given it a couple of minutes for HYCU to fully deploy itself, all you would have to do is basically type the following URL, which is endpoints.aws.hycu.com. And from there, you would basically provide your appropriate credentials, and we will be able to direct you to the right instance where your entire subscription is basically discovered. So this is exactly how your dashboard would look like, which basically gives you an overview of all of your instances that have been discovered. Obviously, when you're discovering it for the first time, you won't have backups showing up as successful because you're yet to configure them. But this is how your dashboard would look like on a high level. So once you're here, you will also be able to discover something called as, or notice something called as a protection set, which is basically a logical grouping mechanism of grouping all of your resource groups or your subscriptions as a single protection entity, where you basically have the ability to manage your subset of resources within your AWS subscription. So again, from a logical construct, you actually have the ability to pick and choose what resources that you'd like to manage from a data protection standpoint. All right. So once you have all those things set, let's dive into instances. As you can see, we have discovered all of our HYCU instances here. And when it comes to backup and restores, we are fully a policy-based data protection solution. All you would have to do, I mean, if you would like to instantaneously start protecting your instances, all you would have to do is basically select all of your instances and basically click on something called as policies. And we actually have out of the box backup policies. And the moment you assign one of your backup policies, let's say Platinum basically does backup every 2 hours, Gold does backups every 4 hours, based on your SLA requirements, the moment you select a policy, we will automatically commence a backup like immediately. Like you don't have to do any configuration, because at the back end, we automatically create an S3 bucket within your same region where your subscription is hosted from. And from there, we'll be able to basically move your backups from your product from your EC2 to your S3 bucket, right? So all of this is basically done in an automated fashion. But if you'd like to have more control, I can dive into those details as well. So now, even before I get into the policies and backup targets, let me show you the type of the restore options that you have in your environment. Uh, you basically have the ability to restore not just the entire instance. I mean, you do have the ability to restore an entire EC2 instance or clone that instance to it to as a separate AWS VM or to a separate EC2 instance on a different region, or you can actually restore those individual volumes of your EC2 instance. Again, you have tons of options here. But in addition to that, you also have the ability to restore individual files or folders, right? And most of the solutions out there, when it comes to restoring individual files and folders, they would require you to deploy agents or plugins, but not with us, because we actually provide you the option. I mean, when you're doing a backup of your VM, we actually provide you the option to, if you'd like to perform a file or a folder level restore, and it's basically a simple checkbox. And the moment you do that, we basically create a catalog that is associated with the backup of those VMs. And from that catalog, the users will basically be able to pick and choose the folders or files that they'd like to restore. And from there, based on the most efficient backup target, could be a snapshot or could be a backup residing within your S3 instance, we will be able to instantaneously recover that file. So this is basically an example of a very basic Linux host. What I'm going to be doing here is, let me just keep things simple. I'm just going to try to restore a file from my etc directory. My favorite pick is always the host file. So let me just search for that file. So there you go. This is the file that I just want to quickly restore. And what I'm going to do here is, instead of restoring it to the, overwriting this file, let me just choose the option restore, rename the restored file instead of overwriting the original file. I also have the ability to restore the associated access control permissions associated with that specific file. But I'm going to keep things very simple and straightforward right now. So I'm just going to click on restore. And as you can see, the restore job has commenced. Now, this is basically going to take a minute or two. And until that happens, let me just take a tour of the product with regards to policies and backup targets. So even before I go to policies, let me just quickly talk about backup targets. Now, as I pointed out before, HYCU does backups to AWS S3 targets, right? Now, you have two options here. You can actually have HYCU automatically create a backup target for you. I mean, that's probably the most efficient way of automating your entire data protection process. I mean, as I pointed out before, the moment you deploy your solution, you can simply back up all of your VMs within by using our out of the box or inbuilt backup policies, and we would automatically create a backup target and start doing backups, right? I mean, the amount of time it takes for you to be production ready is like instantaneous. But again, there are several customers who'd like to customize certain options, and in those cases, if you'd like to add your own backup target, like add your own let's say S3 bucket, we actually allow you to add that S3 bucket based on whatever tier that you want to specify. And yeah, we could do backups directly to that target as well. So once you have specified your backup target requirements, then you basically define how your policies are going to be prescribed. Now, as I pointed out before, you already have built-in backup policies, but if you'd like to build your own policy, you could always do that as well. And as you can see here, you basically have the flexibility of defining your retention RPO, your retention time, and you can actually specify the retention time of your snapshots, or if you just want to retain minimal number of snapshots, and if you just want to do backups directly to your S3 buckets, you could do that, and you can also have additional copies. And my favorite part about this whole policy-based setting is the traditional archiving settings. So for instance, people who are experts in backups always basically think about going through this backups grandfather father son policy, where you have multiple backups with a different set of retention settings that basically defines the life cycle of your entire backups. So you also have the ability to do that. You can define backups that has a retention of daily, weekly, monthly, and even yearly backups. And this is because because of our unique backup methodology where we perform incremental forever backups, you actually have the flexibility of truly defining a cascading backup policy of grandfather, father, son, where you can have unlimited flexibility with regards to defining backup schedules and retentions. So that's the thing. All right. Now I just noticed that the restore job succeeded. So let me just take a quick look at that job. So as you can see here, this was the restore job that had commenced. And if I basically click on the restore job, I'll be able to look into the details by clicking on the view report. This also gives me a complete overview of what was restored, what was the VM that was doing the restore, and where was the file being restored from. As you can see, the restore was basically being done from a snapshot because that was readily available. And we were able to basically successfully restore that file to the said virtual machine on AWS, or the EC2 instance on AWS. So yeah, that is how easy and simple it is for you to do backups and restores. The last part that I wanted to talk about is, in addition to doing intuitive backups and restores, we also have full-fledged backup management capabilities, starting with backup reporting. Right, we do have tons of backup reports and backup reports in place. One of my favorite backup reports is the VM backup status report. Let me just, yeah, that's the one, the backups tasks for the last 24 hours. If I basically look into preview, this report basically gives me the overview of all the VMs that have been backed up during the last 24 hours. What's the start time? What's the end time? You can also customize these reports to basically give you the amount of data that has been transferred. You also have the ability to export these reports into a PDF, PNG, or a CSV format. And on top of it, you also have the ability to schedule these reports on a periodic basis that will be emailed to the appropriate recipients in a PDF, PNG, or a CSV format. So a fully, and in addition to that, you also have the ability to customize or create your own reports by clicking on new. We basically expose the entire reporting schema where you can build your own backup reports. And last but not the least, you also have the ability to set notifications. Now, speaking of notifications, at the end of the day, when you subscribe with our solution, you're also subscribing with our 24/7 customer support. And there's a very unique thing about our customer support, because we are fully proactive rather than being reactive, meaning that if there are any backup failures, or if there are any issues with your backup infrastructure, or even when it comes to maintenance or upgrades, our support and engineering personnel will be able to take care of the entire set of issues and maintenance and upgrades, and we will be the first ones to notify you if there is an issue, right? But always, I mean, if you'd like to have more control in your environment, you can always set email-based notifications, or you can also set webhooks, which are real-time notifications that could be forwarded to your ITSM tools, or you could be forwarded to your messaging tools like Slack, to be instantaneously notified if there are any backup or restore related failures, or if there is any if there are any additional activities that you feel are important within your backup infrastructure. So I know I've been talking. I mean, I was a little too fast because it's a very short and sweet session. So I tried my best to provide a very high-level overview about what we can offer. So this is a very quick overview about HYCU. One of the last things that I'd like to point out is, or to summarize, is our solution is purely hosted as a service, meaning that you as an end user don't have to deploy, don't have to configure, and you don't even have to go through the sizing exercise, because everything is fully automated. And with regards to the entire user experience, as you can see, it's extremely intuitive. And if you wanted to fully automate your entire backup workflows, you can also do that. But in addition to that, our UI in itself is extremely simple and straightforward, and you really don't need to be trained, or you don't need to spend any cycles in being you don't need to spend any cycles to be trained to use our solution. So that would be my quick overview. I'd like to pass the ball back to him.
Yeah, so we do have a few questions. Shiva, if you can see the questions. Any of these specifically that you want to jump out and start with?
Sure. Let me start with the first one. What guest operating systems are supported on AWS? Pretty much everything. right? Because we basically do backups on a VM level, so we don't have any issues. I mean, even if you have an operating system that is totally customized, I mean, I'm just throwing out a situation. I mean, I'm just throwing out an example. But even if we basically have discovered an unknown operating system, we'd still be able to back it up because it's a VM-based backup, and we'll still be able to guarantee a crash consistent backup. So there are no dependencies there. The second question is, what drivers are needed on the guest VMs before the workloads will work on AWS? Not that uh, I mean, I don't know what does it exactly mean, or what does it really have to do with backups. I mean, with regards to backups, you really don't need to install any drivers or agents for those VMs to be worked on. So I really don't think there are any requirements. If you can be a little bit more specific about that question, I'll be able to answer that. The other question is, does Protege or AWS support third-party 2FA authentications? Yes, as long as the multi-factor authentication is supported via AWS, we will be able to inherit those same qualities into HYCU. And I should have pointed this out in my demo. So since our solution is hosted as a service, we fully how do I say this? We fully inherit the security policies from the AWS's Identity Access Management. So if you have any multi-factor authentication basically set within your IAM, we should be able to inherit those qualities as well. And let me see, I believe there's another question too. When restoring a workload via HYCU Protege, you're basically working in a hybrid on-site cloud environment. What are the dependencies AWS requires to get DNS Active Directory working in AWS? For example, a public-facing website that is restored in AWS via Protege. Yeah, that's a good question, right? So it is a long answer, but I'll do my best to give you a short version. When you are basically setting up any public cloud account, in this case, an AWS, you as an end user, we basically have to ensure that the network connectivity between your AWS site and your on-prem environment is fully established. Also ensure that the Active Directory policies also apply on your AWS environment. We will sit down with you and we will ensure that your cloud account is subscribed the proper way, so that when you restore your VMs from your on-prem to your AWS environment, you don't have any network connectivity issues, you don't have any DNS issues. Only after we have ensured all of those prerequisites are met, we will basically go ahead with this whole process of recovering your on-prem VMs onto your AWS. We have helped customers do similar exercises in other public cloud vendors, and we'll be more than happy to help customers on AWS environment as well. This is something that we can definitely help.
And I think we are getting cut off in 30 seconds.
I know. I think there are a lot of people that love this.
Yeah.
Definitely make it a point to reply to those questions via email. So thank you, Ken.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Hopefully you have a better understanding of our solution. If you would like to start a free trial, take advantage of our free trial, you can do so at the link on the screen, tryhycu.com, to submit your request, and we'll get you up and running ASAP. We hope to see you at a future event, and we'll be in touch to answer the questions that we didn't get to.
Yeah, and thank you for the questions and the participation, folks. This means a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take care, guys.